Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and as we draw closer to the October 18th deadline and the CMA decision for the Activision Blizzard buyout, which should happen at any moment now, we might get some news tomorrow, hopefully. But in the meantime, a new twist to the acquisition has emerged. Now, this is not going to affect the closing date or anything like that, so don't worry. But the FTC, as absurd as this is, they just don't know when to quit, and they're looking to find some new information that can maybe help them in the future. It's kind of getting ridiculous by this point, but we're going to go over all the latest on that today. Then also we need to talk about Nintendo and the current Switch. As much as everybody is anticipating its successor next year with all of the different rumors and leaks, it's kind of crazy to think about, but there's a reason that Nintendo has been in a conundrum with that transition. There's a reason that they're staying tight-lipped right now about its announcement, and we will talk about all of that as well. Before we do, though, do make sure to subscribe, and more importantly, ring that bell. That way, when I post a new daily gaming news dose, it'll be delivered directly to your device. There's still about 50% of you that currently aren't subscribed, so do make sure to do that. Truly, I do appreciate each and every one of you for your support, and as a thank you, I'm going to do my very best to give you quality content week in and week out, Monday through Friday. We're always going to have a lot of fun on the channel, and hopefully I bring you all plenty of good news. With that said, though, you know it. Let's just go jump right into things. Starting off with Lords of Fallen. This is a reboot for the series, and just like the original release, I kind of feel like there's been a cautious optimism for this game. A lot of people are hoping that it's a good, solid Souls-like experience, and, well, depending on what you're looking for, it might be just that. Reviews are rolling out now, and it currently has a 77 overall score on Metacritic, and I'm going to come back to that here in just a second, but based on what I've seen, most outlets are giving it an 80-plus overall score. So it seems like most critics are enjoying it. Now, there's a few outliers that really didn't like the game, and it did get a couple 40s as well. Kind of explains its overall score, but one problem that I have consistently seen with this game is its performance on consoles. Its frame rate is reportedly pretty bad. It sounds like Lords of the Fallen is going to come in hot, and again, I just don't understand this decision. I almost feel like I'm a broken record by this point, but I honestly don't understand why every gaming company is seemingly forcing their games to release in October. I mean, you would think with games like Assassin's Creed, Forza, Spider-Man, Mario, Sonic, and Alan Wake, these are big franchises, maybe companies would try a different month, but that's not what we're seeing. So I look at this release, and I have to wonder, for a lesser-known IP like Lords of the Fallen, is a 77 with performance problems good enough to stand out in a very busy October, especially after Lies of P just released and is widely considered to be one of the best non-From Software Souls-likes? I don't know. It feels strange to complain about too many games, but I just think that companies need to be smarter. Gamers only have so much time and money, so what are you expecting from them? I just think that this game could have been delayed to a slower period, and maybe it could have also fixed its performance problems before releasing. Honestly, it's going to be interesting to see if this game has success. Hopefully it does, but if you are looking forward to this game, if anything, it does sound like it's a rather solid game outside of its performance issues. Moving on, though, speaking of success, Ubisoft revealed a rough update for Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, they're not giving us its exact numbers, but for its first 6 days, they seem very, very happy about its launch. They went on to say that Assassin's Creed Mirage has been out for 6 days now, and we are thrilled by the love and positivity we have received over the last week. With the number of players being in line with past successful launches such as Assassin's Creed Origins and Assassin's Creed Odyssey, we are humbled by the positive reception. We are proud to also share that Assassin's Creed Mirage is the biggest new-gen launch in terms of unit sales to date at Ubisoft. Now, for that last part, I can't really think of a lot of big games that Ubisoft has released so far this generation. I know they had Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and there was also Far Cry 6 early on, but I believe both of those were cross-generation titles, so you can kind of take that as you will, with them splitting their sales numbers between last generation and this generation. I, however, think the more telling part here is that Mirage is in line with Origins and Odyssey so far. So that right there tells me that despite Mirage being a smaller scope game, it's not seeing a major decrease in player count compared to their games that released last generation, or at least early on. And this is actually a very important update for the Assassin's Creed community, because if you're on the side that wants more of these style of games, a game closer to the roots of the franchise, then its success is nice to hear. This could convince Ubisoft to do more games like this in the future. Okay, so let's go talk about the Activision Blizzard acquisition again. I mean, we are nearing the end. The end is nigh, or hopefully. Most of this honestly just kind of depends on the CMA's decision. I know that there's some concern that they'll drag their feet until last minute, but we will continue to sit tight until they give their official answer, which it could maybe happen as early as tomorrow. We'll see about all of that, and then we can kind of celebrate together or freak out depending on that decision. We'll figure that out all soon enough. But however, as much as I would love to sit here and say this entire tirade of chaos will end with the CMA's decision, unfortunately, that's not really entirely true. Now, it is true that means that Microsoft can close the buyout, and after that, it should mostly be smooth selling. Gamers can benefit, Game Pass will get some new games, and we can all just kind of move on and put all this behind us. Except for one very, very bitter group, which hasn't had quite enough yet: the FTC. As reported a couple weeks back, the FTC still wants to battle it out with Microsoft with their own internal judge. The circus apparently must continue on because the FTC needs to fight Microsoft to prove their political point. It has been ridiculous for a very, very long time. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. And the problem is, the FTC, they don't really have anything left to argue about. Sony previously was the primary focal point for their arguments, but since the FTC lost their last case, well, Microsoft has since signed a contract with Sony. Nintendo, they also signed a contract, as we all know, last year. So that leaves cloud gaming, and lo and behold, Microsoft addressed that issue as well. Not only did they fix their problems with the EU early on, but they've also now signed a contract with Ubisoft that gives them control of Activision Blizzard's games for cloud gaming. This was required to get another chance to be approved with the CMA. So you have to kind of wonder by this point, what is the FTC going to argue here? Well, about that, they've now tipped their hat because they just filed a new submission. They now want to reopen discovery to gain information for the Ubisoft cloud gaming deal, and they also want to understand a little bit more to why Sony signed a contract. This is what they said. Discovery also is required to test respondents' assertion that the Ubisoft agreement is pro-competitive. For example, under the current pricing terms, Ubisoft must pay Microsoft. This raises doubts about whether it could ever be profitable for Ubisoft to license these games to multi-game content subscription service providers that offer streaming. If not, the effect may be to foreclose new Activision games from being offered on those services. This potential anti-competitive effect, among others, demonstrates why discovery is needed from respondents and Ubisoft, as well as from the multi-game content subscription services providing cloud streaming today, including Amazon and Sony. In other words, the FTC is grasping at straws. If this is now going to be one of their primary focal points, this is going to be an open and shut case. The thing is, this just doesn't really matter. Ubisoft signed a contract, and whether or not they profit from that contract is absolutely meaningless. That is a business decision that Ubisoft made themselves. They themselves felt that it was the right decision to make for their own business, and that's what they chose to do. Nobody forced Ubisoft to sign a contract. It's actually ironically very similar to what the judge kept alluding to the first time the FTC lost in court. Judge Corley was just kind of scratching her head at some of the FTC's complaints about Nintendo. At the end of the day, Nintendo signed a contract with Microsoft, and it's not the FTC's concern on whether or not Nintendo made the right decision. The same thing can be said here with Ubisoft. Whether Ubisoft made a good decision or not, I mean, we'll kind of see about all of that, but that's Ubisoft's decision at the end of the day. Like I said, the FTC is either grasping at straws by this point, or they're trying to maybe put pressure on the CMA and their decision. I don't know. This is just another weird situation in the entire chaotic saga of the Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition. Also, and this is just kind of a side note, but this is the FTC for you. They're wasting time and they're wasting taxpayer dollars. Moving on though, let's just go and talk about something a little bit more fun, because amidst all the Switch successor rumors, that hasn't slowed down Nintendo at all in 2023, or at least over in Japan. A report just came out today revealing that the Switch in its 2023 fiscal year has so far sold more than it did in 2022 during the same time frame. So far, it sold 2.28 million units compared to 2.15 million last year during the same time frame. Apparently, it's seen another sell spike with the limited edition Mario Red OLED console, but it's also important to keep in mind this has actually been another strong year for the Nintendo Switch. It feels like every year has been strong for the Switch because, well, it has been. But I mean, obviously, this year they released Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That game was absolutely massive, as we all know. It's one of the biggest games of this entire year. It's already sold like 20 plus million units. But there's also been games like Metroid Prime, Detective Pikachu Returns. They have the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet expansions, Pikmin 4. That game had a lot of success, especially over in Japan. That Switch effect is a very real thing. And then over the next 2 months, you have both Mario Wonder. That game looks amazing. And then also Mario RPG. I'm excited for that one to return. So this is a really good year for the Switch, and they're once again being rewarded for that consistent, high-quality output. It's very interesting to think about all of this right now, though, because this is all happening while there's a lot of buzz for that Switch successor possibly releasing next year. I mean, I think if anything, though, this is the exact reason why you shouldn't expect Nintendo to announce their new console until next year. You know, they're trying to calculate when best to announce it, all while currently supporting a still very successful console. They previously said they expect to sell another 15 million units to be sold this fiscal year. And well, okay, yeah, that's a decrease compared to last year where they sold nearly 18 million, but this is still a highly impressive number for any console, let alone one that is going on 7 years old. I mean, just to kind of put that into perspective, even if, and that is still an if, but even if it ends up being a slower year for the Switch with it winding down, it's still better than what the Wii U sold lifetime. I mean, that is absolutely crazy to think about. Truth be told, though, the Switch already is the third best-selling console ever made, and all signs continue to say it's got plenty of life left in it. At the end of the day, though, I think that this just kind of explains a lot on why Nintendo has been so tight-lipped about the Switch successor. I've seen so many people get their hopes up for an announcement to happen this year, but that speculation just never made any sense. They're going to want to give the Switch another holiday to shine on its own before announcing its successor. See, I know everybody's kind of excited for the Switch successor and everything. I am as well. I'm a big fan of Nintendo, and I'm excited to see what they do with this vastly more powerful console based on what we're hearing. But if we're being realistic about things, I think the earliest that we were ever going to hear about this console officially is early next year. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though. We're asked you all, would you be interested in a Guitar Hero revival if Activision brought it back? Well, as you can see here, the majority of you did vote yes, and yeah, I agree with you all here. I would be interested in this as well. Not necessarily for myself alone, though. I've always viewed Guitar Hero as a fun party game where you can kind of get a group together and compete and play. Kind of like B-Saber to an extent. That's another fun party game if you haven't tried that before. And I think my family would really enjoy a game like this together. So yeah, I would love to see it get revived personally. You know, it's been a long time since the last game was released, so people's had enough time to miss it. And I also think that there's a very good chance that this could end up being a live service game. That could be another reason why Activision would want to revive it. It would make sense fitting into their business practices, and I just think that there's plenty of reasons to consider a revival like this. But I mean, I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens here. Maybe Xbox will come in and encourage a revival a little bit. Come on, Xbox, do your work. But anyways, yeah, I would love to see a return, as you all would as well. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.